All right. Om Hari Om. Om Hari Om. Om Hari Om. Om Sahana Vavatu. Sahano Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Tejasvina Aditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. May the divine being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the divine being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, 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 and thy blessed beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So good morning and namaste, everyone. This is the June 4th Sunday morning talk of the Vedanta Center of Atlanta. The topic this morning is, what does a Bhakta study? But before we begin with that, I'm going to make a few announcements. First, Swami Sarvapriyananda. Many of you already know Swami Sarvapriyananda will be here July 8th and 9th for a 2-day retreat in which he will speak on the Ashtavakra Gita. This flyer will be available to you. It'll be an attachment to your newsletter if you're a subscriber to the e-news. Otherwise, it will be available to you to download from the website immediately. So just to review, the event is taking place at the Doubletree Hilton Hotel here in Tucker. It runs from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Each day. Registration will open at 9 a.m. each day. There is no pre-registration for this free event. And so please do take advantage of this wonderful opportunity to hear Swami Sarvapriyananda hold forth on what he says is his favorite of this kind of scriptural utterance by a great sage, the Ashtavakra Gita. So any comments or questions at all from anyone about that before we move on? Either in the room or all right. As I said, this will be available to you immediately. It has been approved by all concerned, and so we'll be going forward with it. Chapel use and talks. All these are open and free for you. The only thing that where there's there was a phone call this morning, and so I'm making a clarification. The only thing for which an appointment is needed is if you wish to have a personal appointment with me in the monastery. No other need for an appointment whatsoever. So that's the only need for an appointment, and the chapel is open every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and you can use it as you see fit for your personal use. And of course, you're most welcome to come in person for these Sunday morning talks, which are the only other activity that's being held in person here in the chapel. June, we're now moving into June. June is a month for the study of Bhakti Yoga. We'll go into that in some detail, so that I won't take up more of it right now. We want to have more visiting sadhus come here. So I'm inviting Pravrajikas and Swamis from all over the country to come later this year and in 2024. We don't have any schedule for anyone yet, but that will indeed happen. The invitations will go out, and we'll begin to schedule visiting nuns and monks, and other people like Gareth Young of the Red Clay Sangha and so on, to speak to us at various times over the next, as I say, late this year, and then in 2024. Each week I've been saying something that I think is important, otherwise it wouldn't be repeated. What I'm about to speak about on Bhakti Yoga is not meant as personal instruction for you. It is a discussion of the practices and principles of Bhakti Yoga. If it is useful to you, wonderful. If it is not, that is also wonderful. You're pursuing your own path, and that may or may not include any of the practices and principles of Bhakti Yoga. But this is the month for discussion and study of Bhakti Yoga, and that's what we'll be taking up each week during the coming months. So June is a month for the study of Bhakti Yoga. A Bhakti yogi, a Bhakta, establishes a heartfelt personal relationship with God through study, prayer, ritual, and worship. This often begins with a feeling of reverence or awe, which may slowly mature into a conviction that everything without exception manifests God's power, glory, and grace. This is the conviction that a Bhakta comes to. Everything without exception, the bad, the good, the ugly, all of it is without exception a manifestation of God's power, glory, and grace, and whether it's understood or not is not the concern. If we can understand, wonderful. If not, then it's accepted. As a Bhakta, you practice giving every action, thought, emotion, perception, attitude, and tendency a Godward turn. In other words, you see everything that you are and do in terms of its divinity. You are a divine being manifesting as a human being, and so you see everything within that context. All your energies and attributes, both positive and negative, are offered to the divine presence. Your prayer, your constant prayer, is for self-surrender. The surrender of the lower self is for self-surrender and ultimately union with your beloved. As I said, not everyone will want to follow this path. Karma yogis, Raja yogis, Jnana yogis, they have their own practices and principles, and they may not include this attitude of desiring for self-surrender and union with God in that way. So before we go on, are there any comments that you'd like to make from your own wisdom or experience, or any concern or question that any of this gives rise to in you that you'd like clarified? Anything at all from anyone? Yes, please.
Explain what is the difference between the different yogis that Raja Yogi?
Oh, my dear, that's a long explanation. A Raja Yogi practices a very, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which is Raja Yoga, is a workbook. It's a workbook that starts and ends with very particular aims, purposes, and practices. Now, a Bhakta will probably practice concentration and meditation, contemplation, concentration, and meditation, which are part of Raja Yoga. But a Raja Yogi is, there are very few people who actually practice full on as a Raja Yogi, because it requires that you give your entire life to it, very like Jnana Yoga. You can't really practice as a Jnani and as a really determined Jnani without living that life. The two yogas that allow us to live a life and see things in terms of it not being an illusion of some kind are Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. Now, Bhakti and Karma are also different, but there is more alliance between Bhakti and Karma than there is with the other yogas, at least superficially. I hope that answers the question. And by the way, I do not see well at all. I can just about see out into the audience. So if you have something to ask or say, just say it. I can't see you to recognize you. I just happen to see your hand raised against the whiteness of the curtain behind. Anything else from anyone about anything that's been said or read so far? All right. Let's take up the topic, what does a Bhakta study? We'll go into this in more detail, but first, listen to the voice of an illumined Bhakta sage, an illumined Bhakti. Listen to the voice of an illumined sage, a philosopher king, very like King Janaka of the Mahabharata. This is Psalm 23 of David, David's 23rd Psalm. For those of you who don't know, David was a king of the nation of Israel, and he was also an illumined sage and wrote many psalms, almost all of them from the perspective of the devotional man, a Bhakta. So here's the 23rd Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me. Thou preparest a barrier before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now, of course, those of us who are familiar with the way Krishna speaks in the Gita, this is very familiar to us. It's also familiar to us from the sage Narada, from the sage Vyasa, and of course, most recently, from Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda, and Swami Brahmananda Rajama. They could easily and would have said, surely goodness and mercy shall follow you all the days of your life, and you will dwell in the house of the Lord forever if you have this devotional attitude toward the Lord. So any comments at all, or questions or concerns about what has been said, what has been read from the 23rd Psalm of David? Anything at all, please. Don't hold.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, Balakrishna. Not Balakrishna, Bhagarat.
Right. What I was thinking, that in Sanskrit, the opposite of Bhakta is Vibhakta, means separated, isolated, like that.
Yes.
So now if you apply that, then Bhakta is someone who is united, intertwined. If that is how it is, then even Bhakti becomes generic. If you are united with knowledge, then you become Jnana Yogi. If you are united with karma, you become Karma Yogi. But they are all Bhakta nevertheless, because they are united. The moment we are not united with Bhakta, our problem begins. Like a child who does not hold the hands of the parents and then gets lost. And he is busy asking, did you see any adults go without a child?
Mhm.
The answer will be no. But the best thing is, hold on to the hand and make sure that you do not let it go.
Precisely. This is exactly what Sri Ramakrishna says. Extend your hand, ask the Lord to take it. I'll sing a little song about that in a moment. But I agree with you entirely, Bhagarat. Devotion is at the root of all of the yogas. All of the teachers say so. Krishna, in talking about karma yoga, there is a strong element. You must be devoted to the goal, and Patanjali even suggests devotion to the personal God as a way forward for Raja Yoga. And for the Jnana Yogi, you must have this intense yearning and devotion to the idea of realization of Brahman. You must be devoted to this. And that's in all of the scriptures. So thank you very much. Now, this business about holding the hand, this is very much a bhakta's practice. It may be a practice of others in other yogas as well. But we're talking about Bhakti Yoga this morning. So here's this little song. It's called a Bhakta's Prayer. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, take my hand. Without thee I may fall. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, pull me on. O Lord, pull me on. Without thee I may stray. Without thee I may stray. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, pull me on. Without thee I may fall. Without thee I may stray. O Lord, fill this heart. O Lord, fill this heart. Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, draw me near. O Lord, draw me near, seat me by thy fire, seat me by thy fire. Thou art my all in all, thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, take my hand. Om. Amen. So you can see, Bhagirath, that little song exactly echoes what you said. If the Lord takes your hand, you will not fall. You will not stray. You will be drawn near. And ultimately, you will realize that you and the parent are one and the same. And so your heart will be filled with that divine presence. Thank you, Bhagirath. Anything else from anyone about what's been read or said or sung so far? All right. A bhakta's desire, it goes beyond desire. It starts as desire, but it becomes an unbearable ache, a yearning. A bhakta's yearning, desire, is to know the personal God, the God known to her in all states of consciousness, waking, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. I'll read that again. A bhakta's desire is to know the personal God, the God known to her in all states of consciousness, waking, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. She does not believe the universe to be an illusion. Rather, it is God's power, glory, and grace. It is God's power, glory, and grace made manifest to her. Often her yearning, her desire, begins with a feeling of simple reverence. With patience and persevering spiritual practice, that feeling can grow into an unshakable faith, which in Sanskrit is shraddha. So a bhakta does not believe the universe is an illusion, as it is said, essentially by Patanjali, and of course by Vasishta and the sages of Jnana Yoga. So the bhakta does not believe the universe is an illusion. Rather, it is God's power, glory, and grace made manifest to her. Often this begins with a feeling of simple reverence. You look about you and you say, what is this? Surely I cannot have made this universe. This universe is awesome. And so you begin to feel awed and perhaps reverential. With patience and persevering spiritual practice, that feeling can grow into an unshakable faith, a conviction, a determination to succeed, a belief that one can succeed, shraddha. So anything at all about what was just read and said?
I have a question.
Yes, dear.
So what you just described was reverence growing into this unshakable faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem to include this direct experience of kind of seeing the divine, that's spoken of sometimes in other contexts, like Patanjali. That seems like there seems to be a really big event.
For some, it does include those experiences. Those experiences sometimes come at the end of the journey. And for others, they come, some of those experiences come as you move along. I once asked one of the senior swamis of the Ramakrishna order, what experiences have you had, Swami? Now, this man is by anyone's estimation, you can say this man is most likely to be an illumined soul, this Swami. And he is radiant. He is just radiant. And I asked him what experience, I described some of my experiences to him. And I said, what experiences have you had, Swami? And he said, none. I've never had any experiences. And I said, none? Not in waking, dreaming, or dreamless sleep, nothing? No, nothing. So this conviction will certainly be aided by this, as is said in that Bhakta's prayer song, this filling of your heart with the feeling, with the, as Swami Prabhupada put it, the feeling of the living present. And may have, but it's not necessary, apparently. Although it certainly is devoutly to be wished for those of us who are on the Bhakta path. Does that get it, Janaki?
Yeah, I just to clarify, I'm thinking, okay, what I'm really trying to say is Savikalpa Samadhi.
Well, Savikalpa Samadhi now. Savikalpa Samadhi is what happens essentially if you practice these yogas. You will have Savikalpa Samadhi at some point.
That's really what I meant.
But Savikalpa Samadhi is not the same for everyone. This is what Sri Ramakrishna said. That's a generic category. Now, one can say it is the experience of the divine being all that is. But it may be an experience of the Atman. And this profound and expansive breadth, depth, beyond any ability to measure, understanding that one is the Atman. But it doesn't have that, for those people, it doesn't have that thrilling aspect that Savikalpa Samadhi is said to have. So the blissful, thrilling aspect. Each one of us is unique, completely and totally unique. And so what we will experience, this is why Sri Ramakrishna said, it is a matter of what the mother offers to you. Everything that is experienced is something within time, space, and causation. Savikalpa Samadhi is within time, space, and causation. And all of the other kinds of variants. So Sri Ramakrishna said there are many, many kinds. Thousands. He said there are thousands of different samadhis. Because there are all of those people who are practicing. Thank you, Janaki. That was, I think, a very good clarification. Anything else from anyone?
Yes, Brother Shankara.
Yes, Uma, so glad to hear from you.
Thank you. I'm thinking of 4 different kinds of bhakti. And of course, the most important, or not important, but most common, is the parent-child relationship in which God holds your hand, or as a Bhakta, you hold God's hand. That's one. Another kind of bhakti is of, what is that, friendship, sakha bhava, Sanskrit, in which you worship God, but in terms of your confidant, your best friend who will guide you, who will counsel you, who will give you the best advice. And
Yes.
the best example of this kind of unique friendship is in the Bhagavad Gita
Yes.
between Krishna and Arjuna. And
Yep.
I'm writing an article right now about that friendship, and it ties in so beautifully with what you are saying, that this friendship is between the equals. It's not parent-child, it's not lover and beloved, but both it's based on mutual reverence, not reverence, respect, and trust, total trust, faith. So if Bhakta puts all of his or her faith and devotion in God, God also responds as his best parental role, like a well-wisher. And Krishna throughout Gita proves that when Arjuna is totally depressed and paralyzed with fear, he supports him, he upholds him, he takes him gradually, slowly, gradually to the path of enlightenment. So I'm fascinated by these different 4 types of relationship in which you can totally self-surrender, or you can be a friend, or God can be your friend.
These
Or
are,
you can be love. Mirabai, lover and beloved. So that is very, very unique about, I think, our concept of Bhakta and Bhakti.
well, you'd have to talk to the Catholic saints about that, and the Sufi saints.
Yeah.
They mirror these things very much, but certainly it is what Sri Ramakrishna speaks of when he recommends the Babas that you adopt as a way of moving forward. You adopt quite consciously in the beginning. You say, well, I'm going to serve as a servant of this is the Dasya Baba, the servant Baba.
Yeah.
And we see that many people are given spiritual names, Krishna Das, Bhagavan Das, Dharma Das. These people, they're servants of some aspect of the divine. And so this is one. This parent-child relationship, where you are the child offering your hand to the parent.
Yeah.
That's another. As you said, the friend relationship that Arjuna and Sri Krishna. On the one hand, they're chums, they're drinking buddies. They literally are. Yes, these are kings. They party together, and so kings and princes. But there are places in the Gita, a couple of places in the Gita, where Sri Krishna does, in fact, address Arjuna as my child.
Mhm.
When Arjuna is filled with doubt about a particular thing, he says, no, my child, that's not how it is. And so even there, and then of course, there is the desire by Arjuna to see Krishna's full power and glory, which is, something beyond friendship, But when he does experience that, which is a kind of samadhi, a very high form of savikalpa samadhi, one could say, he says, oh, please, resume your familiar form, your familiar four-armed form, which is, of course, Vishnu. That is the avatar. That is the form of the divine that becomes the avatar, Krishna. So you're very right, Uma. These attitudes are very, very much a part of the Bhakta's attitude. And for that matter, as you said, it's also in the Raja Yogis and in the Karma Yogis attitudes. The Jnana Yogi, of course, the true Jnana Yogi sets aside every aspect of time, space, and causation. It's all illusory, it's all a dream. It has nothing to do with the eternal, the changeless, the infinite. It is changing, time-bound, and so on. And so I'll have nothing to do with it, neti. But we're talking about Bhakta this morning, about Bhakti Yoga. Anything else from anyone? This is just what we should be doing.
I'm wondering also if the Bhakta can't also take the attitude of the divine can take unlimited, infinite numbers and types of forms, and letting it do that instead of
Absolutely. This is right. It's very hard to have that attitude in the beginning. Ramakrishna talks about that. But toward the end of the Bhakta's journey, this is one of the things, like you said, the divine can be anything. And that's both the negative and the positive. Just in as it said in the Chandi about the divine.
But
you are the great goddess as well as the great demoness.
But isn't negative and positive just a human judgment?
Precisely.
So, yeah.
So yes, and ultimately we have to get rid of these judgments to get beyond them. But it's very hard not to make some sort of distinctions like that, particularly in the beginning. Thank you, Cindy.
Actually, brother, I'm going to read this verse out of the gospel. It says, Sri Ramakrishna, on the other hand, though fully aware, like his guru, that the world is an illusory appearance, instead of slighting Maya, like an orthodox monist, acknowledged its power in the relative life, he was all love and reverence for Maya, perceiving in it a mysterious and majestic expression of divinity. To him, Maya itself was God and everything was God. It was one of the faces of Brahman.
Thank you very, very well. This is what Sri Ramakrishna said. And of course, this is what Cindy was reflecting on. That it is all the divine. And that it has infinite forms. An infinite being will have infinite forms. Swami Brahmananda, when he was president of the Ramakrishna order, was once asked to come and bless a statue that had been made of Sri Ramakrishna. And in an abstracted mood, he said, "Oh yes, in what form?" Because he had experienced Sri Ramakrishna in many, many, many forms as one of his closest disciples. So this is, it's just exactly as you read it. And of course, this is the Bhakta's ultimate This is what I am gesturing toward with the words, everything is the divine being's majesty, power, grace, glory. This is ultimately the bhaktas. This is prema bhakti, as Sri Ramakrishna calls it, where you see the divine in that way. Where this is not just you think about it in that way, but you actually sense it, experience it. Thank you, Bhagavan Das. Anything else from anyone?
Yes, Shankaraji,
Yes.
it is very interesting. I think, when we're talking about bhaktas, Krishna says there are 4 kinds of bhakta in Bhagavad Gita.
Mhm.
Then the artharthi, artha, jnyasu, and, the last one is the realized soul. But he says, I love all of them.
Yes.
And all these bhavas, they don't come when you are at the lower grades of bhakti. But as you go progress, this is what exactly Krishna says. The first thing is usually these bhaktas, they come and ask for something. And then from there, they, either it could be karma, that is whatever the worldly luxury, or if they are in some kind of a despair, they will ask, hey, help me, God. And then from there, they go to the jnyasu and jnani. So what I'm trying to say is, it's all stages, and even at the higher stage, even in bhakta, there is parama prema, where it's almost equivalent to the love of a jnani. So that is, in other words, they are going to the same direction at one time or the other. But even though Sri Ramakrishna says, a bhakta is like I don't want to be a sugar doll, I want to eat the sugar.
Mhm. Very well said. All of that. That's all there. When we talk about a bhakta the way we're talking about it this morning, we're talking about someone in the more preliminary stages when they are still in the study stage. Now the study goes on and on, but as Sri Ramakrishna says, you don't have to study things over and over. He says, if you receive a letter that requests that you do certain things and then gathers together certain things and send them to the letter writer, as soon as you read the letter and you understand its contents and you've done what is requested of you, you don't need the letter anymore. You don't need to read it again and again. So you cast this letter aside. He said the same thing is true of the scriptures. There's no need to read the scriptures over and over and over. Because once you get their essence, as he calls it, once you've assimilated what it means to you to follow their instructions and also the instructions of your teacher, he says, these are the 2 things. Gather together the essence of the scriptures and then seek the guidance of a teacher and follow the teacher's instructions, which you will find fit very nicely with what you learned of the essence of the scriptures. There will be and cannot be any contradiction. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna recommends with regard to study. But one studies in the beginning so that one does get this very high spiritual frame of reference. Anything at all about any of that from anyone? Okay. A bhakta's growth from this early stage of reverence and awe into this this growth into this unshakable conviction, this unshakable faith, shraddha. This growth will almost certainly depend on periods of intense study. How have others come to know God? How have others come to know God? This is the testimony that's in the Upanishads, in the scriptures, and so on. How have they come to know God? Whether it's the Vedas and the rishis who heard the Vedas, they are describing, and they have the action portion, the karma kanda, and then they have the spiritual portion, the Upanishads, the end, the Vedanta, the end of the scriptures, which gives the deep spiritual teachings. So how have others come to know God? What were their spiritual practices? What have they left for the Bhakta to read or hear, to contemplate and meditate on? So we've been talking about a number of these things. One of them I led with, which was this 23rd Psalm of David. It's a very profound meditation on what happens when you have this shraddha, when you have this faith. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Now just think about that for a moment. I shall not want. There's nothing that I do not already have, that I need. There is nothing that I could desire that is in any way other than what is already possessed. And this is what Krishna also says in the Gita. He says, if you turn to me in utter faith, I'll provide all your needs. And furthermore, I'll see that what you have is not taken from you. The Lord is my shepherd. Now, of course, the word shepherd is a very profound word in itself. Jesus spoke as the good shepherd. He said to Simon Peter, feed my sheep. And after he had gone, he said to him, after I have gone, feed my sheep. Now, is sheep somehow a slur on our intelligence, our character? No, it simply means our ignorance. That's all. Our ignorance is profound. Otherwise, we would be illumined. So the shepherd, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I shall not want for spiritual instruction. He maketh me, he leadeth me beside still waters. Think about that image. He leadeth me beside still waters. This is the still waters of deep meditation. He restoreth my soul. In other words, I come to know myself as the divine being, as the Atma. So these are the things that a Bhakta will study. What has been left for that Bhakta from others? But once having assimilated it, as Sri Ramakrishna says, don't just read things. You must assimilate them. You must make the word. What does assimilate mean? It's another word for digestion. You take something in and you digest it. What happens when you digest something? It becomes part of your being. The useful parts of what you ingested will become part of your being. So assimilate this, he said. and then make it your own and practice it. Practice it. So this is what we'll talk about in the coming weeks. First, we study, we assimilate what is necessary in the way of information and instruction, and then we go on to practice. And we'll talk about what those practices are in the coming weeks. So is there anything else from anyone before we close? Anything here in the room or anything from anyone?
Just one thing, Swami. That's perfect that if you read, but do not assimilate, it does not go in yourself, your behavior, your thinking, your attitude does not change if you don't assimilate. But before you assimilate, before it happens, don't you need to reflect on what you read, what Krishna says to Arjuna? You know, I have given you everything you needed to know. In chapter 18, he says that, now I leave it to you. You reflect on what I say to you, and then take your own decision.
Yes.
So, in order to assimilate, we need to give a deep thought and then put it to action.
Of course, Uma. That is exactly the sequence that is meant by Shravana, Manana, and
Yes,
Nididhyasana.
yes,
First, we hear or read these great truths. Then we contemplate them.
yes,
Manana. We take them within and we reflect on the way I currently think and therefore speak and act, and the way that I am told in these great truths that is a more auspicious way to think and therefore speak and act. Slowly and slowly, by this contemplation, we become convinced of the power of what we've read, the truth of what we've read.
exactly.
Then once we have done that, then we can do the Nididhyasana. And Nididhyasana is from here, the understanding of what Nididhyasana means. It's a kind of meditation, but it is a kind of meditation that is a relentless and continuous insistence on truth, satyagraha. Nothing else besides this truth can be true. And that can be very expansive, as was brought out by Cindy and others. Bhagirath in the very beginning. These things, it can be very expansive indeed. But in other words, it's not a limitation. But as you said, and as was Swami Swahananda's continual instruction to us, the only true measure of spiritual progress, of spiritual growth, the only true measure of spiritual progress is change in behavior. Because you have concluded that the way you have been behaving, and sometimes this conclusion is an intellectual conclusion, sometimes it's just something that is a natural evolution within yourself. But you come to the conclusion that this other way is a more auspicious and it will lead me forward. So therefore the way you think changes, therefore the way you speak and act changes, and this is the measure of spiritual growth. And you can see it. You can see it in people that you know who are following some spiritual path. You see over the years, they change and change and change. And always towards something that is more auspicious, something more glorious and radiant. Anything else from anyone? Thank you, Uma.
The insistence on truth, they're referring to the ego always spinning out untruth within yourself. Is that correct?
Well, this is our mind is married to ignorance. Our mind is made up of the samskaras of what we already know. So yes, it will spin out ignorance. It will spin out lesser truth. So then you come to these higher truths through different aspects of yourself. The mind is outward turning. So as Patanjali says, you replace those lower samskaras with higher samskaras. And of course, he enumerates them in the Yoga Sutras. The observances, the niyamas, are a start on those higher samskaras, and they result in change in behavior. So the ego, the lower self, the mind, will continue to spin out, as you say, things based on what it already knows. So it has to be given better food, number one, but that better food actually comes from within as we have this experience that we come to in contemplation, concentration, and meditation of our inner being. Our inner being. This is what Krishna says over and over in the Gita. It's what Sri Ramakrishna says over and over in the gospel. I mean, what Sri Ramakrishna says over and over in the gospel, Krishna says in the Gita, Narada says in the Bhakti Sutras. Go within, go within, go within. You will find a treasure house within. So thank you. Yes, Rajiv.
The Gaurav here. So it almost feels like pretty much all the yoga paths, it tries to help you realize that you're more than this body that you're living in. You're way more than that. Means you're
absolutely. And if you don't become convinced of that fairly quickly, you're probably not practicing very much.
Exactly. That's what it feels like. Because I practice meditation mostly in the Raja Yoga stuff, but I have a lot of love for Divine Mother as well. So it is like a combination of Raja Yoga and Bhakti at the same time for me in this.
Oh, well, that's a very auspicious combination of following Patanjali's instruction book and at the same time having love of the Divine Mother, being careful not to try to restrict her only to the positive.
Yes, brother.
I'm sorry for confusing you, who you were, Gaurav. I should have waited for you to tell me. But thank you very much for all of that. Anything else from anyone?
I'll tell you my experience.
Yes, dear.
Can the people out in Zoom land hear me? Well, they can't hear.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Gaurav.
So the other day I was walking through the living room and I saw my dog laying there. His name's Roscoe. And I just thought, I love Roscoe. And then I thought, I love this house. And then my girlfriend Sam was in the other room and I thought how much I love Sam. And it was just this love for just things as they are. You know, it can happen in here, you know, with the people here or the room or anything. It's yes, right here, right now, with what is actually in my life. And that's the closest I could describe my experience with Bhakti.
Very well said, Tom. Love, there is only one love. There is only one consciousness. And so we feel it for various aspects of time, space, and causation, our experience. But it's only one love. There's only one love, one bliss. This is the Ananda of Satchidananda. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Absolute knowledge, absolute existence, and absolute bliss or love. But that absolute is beyond time, space, and causation. We find this knowledge, existence, and love within time, space, and causation. And so, as you say, you love the dog, you love the house, you love the near and dear. That is the Bhakta's love. That is the devotion. Well said. Thank you, Tom. Anything else from anyone?
Brother, kind of tagging along with what Tom said. I'm not sure if it is Jesus Christ or Gautam Buddha. One of them said that you have to love the world as if it's your own child.
I think that was probably the Buddha.
Okay.
I remember Christ saying that, though he may have. But in any of the Gospels that I've read, I don't remember. But he does say, love the world as your brother. Love. Do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. Love your brother as yourself. Now, if you think about who your brother is that.
Yeah. So you embrace that. So that is Bhakti Yoga, and right there, I believe.
Well, Christ taught almost exclusively, not exclusively, but
yeah,
almost exclusively, from a Bhakta's perspective. Otherwise, the people he was listening, they were listening to him, wouldn't have resonated with it. And though to his close disciples, he spoke about qualified non-dualism and non-dualism. We'll talk about that some other time. I think the talk has been given actually about Christ's non-dual teachings. I know it has been given. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, Bhagavan.
Going back to your earlier simile of ingestion, digestion, assimilation, it is a very thought-provoking idea in the sense that Gaurav said that we are more than our body. But on the other hand, body is a good model for us to know. Like they say in Sanskrit, yatha pinde tatha brahmande, that body is a small replica of the entire universe. Because if you go to the simple process of food, ingestion, but before ingestion, we cook it, we clean it, we make sure that it is safe, that we do not take it in excessive amount, that there is a proportion to what we ingest. Then when it comes to digestion, the body is again applying very discrete means. Everything that we eat is not, everything we ingested is not digested. Some of it is just thrown away because body thinks it is not good for us, and therefore it will not even accept it. And then comes the assimilation, which Uma was talking about, giving a thought to it. But even after assimilation, if the things are toxic, they're thrown away in the body. That's the reason why a diabetic, when he eats a lot of sugar, he goes through a coma. So at every point, we have to apply the discretion just in the way that body at every point is applying discretion, and make sure that whatever goes into the system is not only harmless, but conducive to health and betterment.
Thank you so very much, Bhagirath. So very well said. Yes. And of course, as in all these things, we get some discourse from Sri Krishna on exactly these things, including the need for moderation. He speaks of that in the Gita.
And isn't it very, very congruous that Sri Krishna in chapter 15, I think, says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamar Pachamyannam Chaturvidam. Beautiful, beautiful way. Krishna says that, look, Arjuna, I am that acting as the fire in your stomach, as your digestive power. And because of me digesting all kinds of food, Chaturvidam, 4 kinds of foods that you eat, I am behind that digestive capacity. I am digesting your food. So whatever you eat in a way that makes my job easier. So Krishna himself says that I am behind your digestion.
Exactly, because the one consciousness is behind every action. The one consciousness. This is exactly what the Om Brahmarpanam verses say.
Yeah.
Brahman is the offering. Brahman is the ritual. Brahman is the one who offers to the fire that is Brahman. One who sees Brahman in every action attains to Brahman. And so it is Brahman. I mean, this is Sri Krishna speaking as Brahman within time, space, and causation, Saguna Brahman. That is who it is that's speaking throughout the Gita. Saguna Brahman, Brahman with attributes. So thank you, Uma. Anything else from anyone here in the room or on Zoom? All right, dears. We'll wind it up with our wonderful ancient prayer as translated by Swami Yogeshananda. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let this infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, 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 and thy blessed beneficence be unto us and to all beings everywhere. Think how your behavior would change if peace truly prevailed throughout your entire being. If we no longer had disturbed and distracted mind. So we'll close with our prayer for one another. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. may we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we go forward in the secure knowledge that we are in the loving and protective embrace of the divine being as our mother and father. Hari Om Tat Sat. Oh, dearly beloved, make it so for us. And so that'll do it for today. Until next time, which of course will be Tuesday when we take up the study of the gospel and so on. I remind you that there will be a flyer for those of you who receive the newsletter. You will receive it in the newsletter immediately. You will get a bulletin within probably today or tomorrow morning that has the flyer for Swami Sarvapriyananda's July 8th and 9th event here. And then if you are a subscriber to the newsletter, all that information will continue to be updated and provided to you. Any further details. And if you're not a subscriber to the newsletter, you will be able to download the flyer about the Sarvapriyananda event, his 2-day spiritual retreat with us. You'll be able to download that on the website. Any final thought from anyone at all? All right, dears. Until next time.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being with us. This is the joy of congregation. This is the joy of holy company.